Simple chess. Let's castle. Okay, so they're capturing, the knight's defending the bishop, so we can capture back with the knight. So feeling pretty smooth at the moment. Capture the other bishop. Well, simplified chess at this moment. Conscious they've not castled yet, but we don't have any weak areas to really attack at this moment to give them anything to think about in terms of being able to take advantage of them not castling. So looking now, because the king is on a dark square, so thinking maybe the queen can go up and put a check on the king. Not really seeing much else to really attack. And off they go again with the pawns on the king side. Pushing more pawns down. Looking like it's giving us a gateway to put the check on the king, but what's the follow on really? But there's nothing else happening at the moment. I'm thinking maybe developing the white square bishop, but to where? I don't want to block our knight. So let's put a check on the king. Because their pawns are jumping down and they're going to be hitting our knight. I need to keep some space for our knight to jump back. So they put the knight in front defending, so I've helped them develop their knight. Now I'm just focusing really on how can I make something of it. The B pawn is available, but do I really want to attack that really? See if we can open up the centre a little bit more. If not, put pressure onto the queen, so a highly advanced pawn, if they don't capture. They're making space for castling, potentially. Doesn't look like much of a castle they're going to have though, does it? So we put a smaller piece attacking the queen, just to elevate the pawn a little bit further up the board as well. Just looking to try and get the rooks into the game now. Still conscious that my white square bishop isn't off of that back. Rook was attacking that nice little lowly pawn. Tried to be stealthy, but the queen's come back defending. I would say for a 1200 this player's playing quite okay for a 1200. They're blocking off all the attacks and the potential threats. It's not usually the type of play you would kind of expect to see from a 1200. So I'm starting to clock up in my mind that this person is probably not 1200 really. At this point I'm just going to basically say, well, let's forget the number that you've seen at the side of this person's name and just play your chess. Trying to make space for our white square bishop, as well as looking to try and lean onto the knight, because currently the queen, because it's not castled, the king, sorry, is not castled. There's potential for us to push onto the knight. If the a pawn takes, then we will be able to get the rook for free with a check on their king. Now that's definitely not 1200 level play. So they've moved their king because of that potential that we just mentioned. There's no way a 1200 is seeing that type of maneuvers. So we'll push forward anyway. And just totally ignoring the rating at the side of their number. It's really hard to do that though. It's like you think, God, this is not a 1200. What is going on here? But we'll put it to bed and let's focus now. They're attacking our queen. Putting a 2-on-1 onto the pawn, but the king is defending the pawn as well as the queen. Just think now, try to get this bishop off the back and attacking the rook. Might have been a better position for the bishop, but for now I was thinking, let's just attack a piece, get the bishop off the back. I feel a little bit hemmed in, especially with their knight that is actually on our d pawn. there's potential for them to double up like they have done now with the rook, potentially triple up onto the pawn. There's a bit of a cause for concern that the complexity of their maneuvers and the position play, they've really condensed my play. I'm really quite shocked. So how best for me to play the maneuvers now? We know that they're doubled up on this pawn, so we need to basically get another piece supporting the pawn, because we've only got the knight supporting the pawn at the minute. Bishop could come in to defend, or the queen could come in to defend. But yeah, horrendous attack. Stealth attack, just the position play, the movements of the pieces. Really mesmerizing. This is my stunned look. And the calm before the storm. But now I'm thinking this is the type of over-the-board gameplay that we're going to be expecting, playing against the open category players. We're bringing the queen through, now it's attacking the rook. We know the rook is going to come and support the rook. We're trying to just get activated, just in case they don't, then we could get the rook for free. And with them having the 2-on-1 on the pawn, wouldn't expect the rook to actually take the pawn. But yeah, they've gone for this. Yeah, so I reframed my mindset now. This is basically how we would expect an open player such as the 1900s, the 2000s that we will be playing in these open tournaments. And this is the type of play that they would kind of bring in, because they're quite strong, but it's not that we don't know what they're doing. We know what they're doing, we just need to practice how to circumvent that and basically pull out what we can do, because we know what we can do. Just have to get used to different playing styles and different methodologies, and there's no magic. We're not in awe with anybody. We know what people are doing on the board. If we're put in a bad position, it's one of those cases where we know that's happening, but we just didn't do it right. Case in point in this game, I'm sat here thinking, okay, how do we get out of this now then? Am I too late to the party in terms of finding better positions? Because it feels like I'm late starting because of the position that they've got on the board. It seems quite eerily strong, and it looks like they've done nothing, but yet somehow I feel congested. Let's put a 2-on-1 on this pawn here, on the B. Easily defended, obviously, and they can just attack our queen, but it's a little bit airy. We're putting a bit of focus in, see what damage we can cause, try and give them things to think about. We won't find the best moves, you know, we're not like professionals or anything like that. So they've gone and grabbed the pawn, so we could go and grab the pawn and go for exchanges. Now I'm trying to just simplify down now, just to see if there's any advantages in the end game. So the queens are coming off, which is good. So now you're basically in, because the queens are off, you can class it as the end game. So we are in end game mode now, and we have been practicing end game. Not saying we're perfect at them, but if we're playing humans, 9 times out of 10 we can have a half decent game. Positionally at this moment in time, not too comfortable, but the queens are off. Maybe we can get some better position on the board, because this is extremely strong play. Might not be strong play to others watching, but for me this is strong play. They've come back again attacking the pawn. We've only got one piece defending, which is the knight. We do have options. We can bring the bishop to support. Well, one option, the bishop can support, or we could let it go and attack one of their pieces. Bring the bishop to support. It's one of those types of end games. We do have a passed pawn on the c, which is what the knight is blocking. So now they're looking to trade off. I feel I'm fairly happy just trading off now, because we just want to get the end game. This looks like it could potentially be a draw. I'd be comfortable going with a draw against this extremely strong play, although it looks like they did nothing, but somehow positionally they've done well. So I think it could be a draw. We'll just have to mobilize our pieces as best possible. So we might as well just trade down now. They do have two knights. We've got a bishop and a knight, and we have the black knight. So I think they'll just keep blocking that c pawn with the knight, so that it can't go past anywhere. So I don't think we need to do anything too crazy. Make a bit of space for the king. Give it a bit of luft. I don't want to go through all this and get back rank mated. Yeah, so it's peeling out to be a draw. That's what I'm thinking in my head, but it might not. Our bishop is kind of held to ransom in a sense. Well, not held, because it's having to support this pawn. The knight's obviously going to jump back and it's going to attack it. It's going to have the two pieces attacking, and it could put 3 on there with their other knight. That's my big concern about this type of position. Just going for basic common sense, attacking the knight, just saying, well, just go back and block the pawn. But it's also bringing it back in to attack our pawn again on the d. So probably could have done a different move. Maybe a g-pawn, attacking their g-pawn and trying to open up things that way to give them something to think about. Did think about all of that though, but I didn't think it was worthwhile. But it probably might have been. Just to keep their knight from actually being attacking our pawn and having the 2-on-1 there. because our knight is going to be under threat from their pawn. They push like the F pawn and then push the G pawn, then our knight would have to disappear at some point, and then they would have that 2-on-1 on our pawn. Small tiny detail things like that. And that was another reason of pushing the H pawn as well, is to try and circumvent that. But in the grand scheme of things, if they did do the FG type thing, our knight would have to move. We would have to bring our rook to D to support the pawn. That's the key thing I'm focusing on really, it's this D pawn, but how can I do something about the rest of my pieces? I'm just thinking they're going to triple up on that pawn and we're going to have nothing, we won't be able to defend it. Our king is too far over. Let's push past. They could always do en passant, but in any event, as we were talking about, trying to make some space around that area, it should work out okay-ish for us. They could still push their pawn down, but would still be able to take. The knight might still have that same situation, but it's giving them things to think about. They do the en passant or do they stay locked down? We're not over-egged anything. We're so conscious of them attacking our D pawn. If we can give them things to think about, they might make an error and forget about attacking that D pawn triply. Yeah. We're probably good if they do keep it locked down and do another funky move somewhere else. I'm sure they'll be wanting to get rid of our passed pawn. How can they triple up? The knight could come back, their knight could come around to the G. G3, maybe G3, no, it's not going to fit there. We'll come back onto C1, round. Yeah, so if it went C1 and then to B4, looking to trade down. So I'm hoping that that benefits us. Now that they're looking to trade, I'm going to bring the knight around so that I get I'm hoping a better position rather than developing their knight for them further down the board. So if they do capture, we can capture with our knight, so I have no issues with that. And I feel like the knight is going to be able to do some good defensive work around there. And again, this is that kind of practice that I need to get into play in when I'm playing over the board in the open tournaments, is don't develop them for them. Yeah, don't go for the basic trade. Sometimes you can go for a basic trade and it improves your position or equalizes the position. I wouldn't have had a problem capturing the rook, but it does develop their knight. further down the board. Yes, we have got the passed pawn, but he's got his other knight that is protecting that area. So we don't want to give them any additional strength. So they've captured, and really that looks kind of equalized for me at this point in time. We do have a passed pawn, so in my head I'm thinking, well, it might be advantageous for us. Just our white square bishop is kind of held to ransom. See how quickly they've moved the knight to that position? That's why they wanted that position, because it was a better position for them. So we've not developed them ourselves. I'm believing we have improved our position by our knight taking. Now bringing the knight to the edge, I'm trying to think of getting my knight around the back. I'm not too sure if getting it around the back was the right thing to be thinking, because there's potential, but where does it go from there? Because there's nothing really that I can attack. Sometimes you make a move and you think, well, I had the tunnel vision of jumping around the back, but what am I actually targeting? Probably thinking of supporting the pawn, pushing up our c pawn. Now their knights come in, and it's put one piece onto that pawn again. So I'm assuming they're going to be jumping to things like c7 with their knight, but they can't do that currently because our knight is defending that square. Just to put a 2-on-1 on the pawn, and also attacking the bishop. What's my king doing? I'm thinking, well, does the king need to get into the game? I think probably a simple king move can suffice. All the while I'm also thinking, well, can my knight not go into the b4? What's it going to do there? What is it doing on b4? Kind of struggling to see what it really is going to do there. It might be a case of it's going high up, but then it's got nowhere to go. And if we move from that spot, we're giving them the glory by the knight coming round, putting pressure onto our bishop. But if it did capture the bishop, the pawn would just take, and the pawn supporting the pawn on d. Right, looking drawish. I don't think there's anything too major. Bit smarting about my knight, my black knight. I think the king just needs to move up. I don't think there's any major movements that need to be made here. King or the pawn, maybe the king. See if we blast open this edge again. Trying to cause some disturbance in that area. Move the king up a little bit later. Keep the knight there for now. It's stopping the attack on the bishop. But they're getting their king in. We can't push the pawn because he can just take and lose a pawn. Maybe just the king. I think the knight's going up. Move the king. Captured. Bit surprised at that, but not so surprised, because now when we take the pawn, they can take our pawn on the d. So that might have been a miscalculation of mine in terms of looking at the repercussions of that particular move. But I don't think that's a big problem because we can bring the bishop back and attack their knight. So yes, they're a pawn up, it looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. But their position on the board in this endgame is not as good as you would believe. So yep, definitely strong play from my opponent. So yes, pawn up, but we can just attack one of the knights now with the bishop. Gives them something to think about and improve our position. They've actually come and supported the knight, but that does lose them a key tempo in terms of a better position, because we can now take the knight, doubles their pawns, and then our king and the knight can work together to get the pawns off. So that works in our favour. Doubling the pawns is a key thing in the endgame. So yeah, the rhythm looks like it should work for us, and it should work out to be a draw. But I might be wrong. I might be wrong, and I may have over-egged my calculation. Slide the king over. Very dangerous endgames these are. We'll need to get the knight involved to attack one of these pawns, depending on what the knight does next. Oh, and they've moved, so they're moving their knight, attacking our pawn. We can't, if we go and push that pawn, he thinks he's being clever. This is why this is not a 1200. That knight's going to jump to e4 with a check on my king, and also attacking the pawn as well. But this is not a 1200 in any way, shape or form. So we may as well go and attack their pawn and get their pawn off the board. So there'll still be a pawn up, but we've got one less pawn to contend with. So they do capture, and let's just capture their pawn, blocking their pawn for a brief moment. So this is frighteningly way too strong for a 1200. Okay, so the king comes down now. You'll have to box clever because they do have a passed pawn. I'm not sure about this knight move really. I'm just trying to make it look like it's doing something. I think the king could have just moved from side to side and just waited for them to overextend. I don't really think I needed to do the knight move. But it's there now, and I think the potential I'm thinking was coming round onto e7, is it? e2, and attacking the pawn, forcing it down. But that probably wouldn't work too well for us because he's got the knight defending that square, and that the king's thinking of going to, and then it'll also stop the king from actually going forward. So that wasn't the best maneuver, I don't think. Now, looking at where their knight's wanting to go, it's got positions where it can put our check on check on our king. We've got to be mindful of that. But we also got to be wary that we want to probably potentially get this pawn off the board that they've got on the D. Do we have any checks on their king? Do we just move the king across, away from any checks from their knight? We're going hunting the pawn. Now that because they've got a problem now, and I'm glad they did move the knight, because if they push the pawn away now, then the king, our king, will take their knight for free. But they've got a check on our king. But I think the tempo is going to allow us to come and get their pawn and basically equalize the pawn situation. And I've seen this type of position before in the end game with the king and, you know, them having the extra pawn. But it is a draw. I think my king will be fast enough to come down and get the pawn or block the king. But that's something you have to experience yourself, that type of end game. Not saying I'm doing it 100% perfect here, but we're attacking the knight. We're planning to come upwards with our king to actually attack the pawn. He's put a check on us, so now we can bring the king up. So they're actually just falling into a nice steady pattern now of us being able to get the pawn off the board. Still mindful, we don't want their king jumping downwards just yet. It's going defending, so we're going to basically get the knights off the board. And that's where we're coming to the play of, hopefully, a draw land. We shall see. I always panic when these end game type things come in, but that looks like it's going to be a pretty simple draw if I've calculated it right. So I don't think they're going to go shooting down. I think they're going to be pushing the pawn or something. The king goes shooting down, goes round the back. We can come across, get their pawn. It goes 1, 2, and we go 1, 2, and then our pawn's past and we're pushing up and he's pushing up. We shall see. But they've actually pushed. So maybe, no, I think it was still a draw anyway, wasn't it? Even if they had moved the king. Yeah, so it's going to have to take our pawn. And it looks like they're going to win. Looks like they've got the advantage, but because I've seen this before and played this before, I'm feeling fairly comfortable. We can block it in. But if you don't know though that pattern of how to deal with this, you can easily lose these types of games. So we're just bringing the king down. It looks like it's too far away to do anything. King has to go down because our pawn is blocking its way. Just move the king down. We're looking to basically just do opposition against their king, and he'll be blocked in with his own pawn. Because now he has to do the unthinkable thing of moving it one space in. Our king can come across, and once they capture, we're basically then just trapping their king in on that file, and it won't be able to get out of that. So if you don't know that, that's where you can make errors. Obviously I've learned that over the years. I didn't know that straight off. They're pushing the pawn, so it's a draw either way. But you can make mistakes if you just don't know and you start moving your king away and giving them space. So just blocking the squares that the king can move. Need to make some space, and I've got all the pieces there. So the king's moved down. And just blocking the king again. And I think this is a draw, and they must know. And that's stalemate.